Mpaji wa serikali ameweza kutuambia Faith aliaga na strangulation, ambayo pia amesema kwamba lazima majibu yaweze kuthibitishwa kwamba ni yeye Faith, lakini kilichomuua ni kwamba aliweza kunyongwa.
Kemunto,
Wakati Faith alitoweka, huyu boyfriend amekuwa akitupigia simu sana akitaka kujua Faith ako wapi, only for us to be shocked that on Sunday alituandikia ujumbe, ingawaje hatuwezi thibitisha kwamba ni yeye, lakini aliandika ujumbe akisema mimi ni rafiki wa Faith, tumemuua, tumemweka mausi kwa tank mahali mchanga inatolewa ya kuboma nyumba. So we swung into action with the DCI, tukakuja hadi hapa siku hiyo, tukaweza kupiga kambi hapa, tukatafuta hii mlima yote, hatukuweza kuona mtu pale. Lakini wakati sasa ilitubidi tufukue pale alipotaja kwamba amemzika, so tulipata ukweli kuna mtu amezikwa pale.
In July 2025, a 25-year-old woman in Nyamira County said goodbye to her family and walked out to meet someone she'd known since secondary school. She was due to start university within weeks. She didn't come home. For a month, her family searched with almost nothing to go on. What eventually broke the case open was not a forensic breakthrough or a witness coming forward. It was a text message. What it said and what it led investigators to is something we'll walk through carefully, because it's the part of the story that shaped how all Kenya came to know Faith Kemunto's name. This is what's publicly known about her case, what happened, what remained unresolved in court, and what it comes to represent in a wider national conversation about safety in relationships. Before we dive into the dark twist of this case, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button. Like this video, share her story on your platforms, and drop a comment below. It forces algorithm to keep pushing the channel and her story out to the world.
Every silence has a story.
Faith Kemunto Obina grew up in Kanani village in Nyamira County in Kenya's Kisii Highlands, a region of rolling tea and coffee farms in the country's southwest. She had just finished her secondary education at Nyamusi Girls High School and had secured admission to Machakos University. By late July 2025, she'd traveled home from Nairobi, where reporting suggested she'd been staying, to finalize her preparations to join campus that August. Her parents are named in reportings as Grace Nyaitondi and Charles Obina. She had at least one sibling. A brother is mentioned in coverage of the case, though his name hasn't been widely published and we won't speculate beyond what's confirmed. By most accounts, she was a young woman at a genuine turning point. Finishing secondary school and securing a university place is a significant milestone for any family in Kenya. It represents years of school fees, sacrifice, and hope for what comes next. Machakos University, where she'd been admitted, is a public university roughly 60 kilometers southwest of Nairobi. She was due to report within days of when she disappeared. On July 27, 2025, Faith left her family home saying she was going to meet her boyfriend, a young man she'd known since their secondary school days, reported in the press as Gideon Angisa, 22 years old. She did not return. Her family reported her missing at the local police station, reporting names both Nyamuri and Nyamusi police stations. For about a month, the search produced nothing. Community members reportedly joined relatives in looking for her, but with no leads, the search stalled. During that month, something happened that, in hindsight, families and investigators point to as significant. Messages reportedly went out from Faith's own phone suggesting she was safe and preparing to report to university. For a family desperate for any sign of life, that would have been a lifeline. But according to later reporting, relatives grew uneasy. The phrasing in the message didn't sound like her. Something felt off. For weeks, Faith's family had reason to believe, or at least to hope, that she was alive and simply out of contact. That hope and the eventual doubt that crept into it is part of what makes the next development in this case so difficult. The moment that hope had to be reconciled with a very different possibility. It's also a pattern worth noting without overinterpreting it. In cases of intimate partners violence and coercive control more broadly, a missing person's own phone or account continuing to post or message after they'd gone silent is something investigators are trying to treat as a red flag, not a reassurance. Around September 1st, 2025, roughly 5 weeks after Faith disappeared, a message reportedly arrived at a family member's phone. According to reporting, it was allegedly sent from the accused, stating plainly that Faith had been killed and buried, and given a location near a quarry in Mausi village, close to a water tank landmark locals would recognize. It's hard to overstate what a message like that does to a family who had spent a month oscillating between hope and dread. According to a relative quoted in reporting, there had even been a request for a small sum of money, the equivalent of a few dollars, sent from the same phone shortly before the confession, like message arrived. Investigators would later say this pointed to someone in possession of Faith's phone attempting to extract money before or alongside revealing what had happened. Detectives from Kenya Directorate of Criminal Investigation, together with the local police from the Nyamira North Division, went to the site that had been described. What they found was a disturbed patch of ground near a Maram quarry, consistent with a shallow, recently dug grave. Human remains were recovered, along with clothing that helped support identification. The Nyamira law courts issued an order authorizing exhumation. That process, formally recovering the remains for forensic examination, took place a few days later, with a government pathologist present alongside DCI forensic officers, and according to reporting, family members as witnesses. The remains were transported to Nyamira Referral Mortuary, where they awaited post-mortem examination and DNA testing to confirm identity. We are deliberately not describing the physical state of the remains or details from the post-mortem in this documentary. That information doesn't change anything meaningful about the case as it's understood, and including it would serve shock value rather than understanding, which isn't what we are here to do. What we will say is this. For Faith's family, this stage of the case meant moving from a month of searching for their daughter alive to formally confirming through DNA that the person found in that grave was her. That's about as difficult a transition as a family can be asked to make, and it happened in a matter of days. By the time the grave was found, the accused was reported to have already fled the area. Investigators working from digital evidence, including the location data attached to those phone messages, traced him to Huruma Estate, a densely populated neighborhood in Nairobi. He was arrested there in early September 2025. According to the DCI, he was found at the time of arrest still in possession of Faith's mobile phone, the same phone reportedly used to send both the money request and the message describing what had happened to her. Investigators had pointed to that as a significant piece of evidence linking him to the case. Though it will ultimately be for a court, a second person, reported in a coverage as a woman named Vinik Kemunto, was arrested alongside him. At what's described as her home in Huruma, she's accused of sheltering him there while he evaded arrest. It's worth being precise about what that charge is and isn't. Reporting described her as accused of harboring a fugitive, not as accused of involvement in Faith's death itself. We haven't seen reportings that allege she was present for or knew about the killing before it was reported to have happened. Both were escorted to Nyamira and arraigned at Nyamira Law Courts in early September. Prosecutors requested and the court granted a custodial order, meaning both were held for a set of period, initially 21 days, while investigators completed forensic testing and post-mortem and witness statement from both families. A case mention date was set for later that month to check on the progress of the investigation. As of the most recent available reporting in early 2026, the case had not concluded, and Faith's family has spoken publicly about still waiting for it to move forward for a trial date and eventually resolution. We don't have reporting confirming a trial date, a plea, or a verdict. Faith Kemunto's case drew national attention in Kenya partly because of the detail that unsettles people, specifically the person she went to meet and the person accused in connection with her death was someone she'd known since school, not a stranger. Coverage repeatedly used the word childhood boyfriend, and that framing is large part of why the case spread as widely as it did on Kenya's social media. That reaction isn't unique to this case. It sits inside a much larger ongoing conversation in Kenya about femicide and intimate partner violence. Kenyan advocacy groups and researchers have tracked a rise in reported femicide cases in recent years, and in 2024 in particular, saw large public protests in Nairobi and other cities under banners like End Femicide Kenya, following a string of killing of women that drew national attention. Parliament and civil society groups have since debated stronger legal framework, specifically addressing gender-based violence and femicide as a distinct category of crime rather than treating each case in isolation. Faith Kemunto's case became part of that conversation not because of any single organized campaign around her specifically, but because the detail resonated with the fear many young Kenyan women describe. That the greatest risk isn't a stranger on a dark road, but someone already inside the cycle of trust. Whether or not that specific fear applied to the legal facts of this case, which are still being determined in court, it's clearly part of why her name spread the way it did. This case is still working through the Kenyan courts. The accused has not been convicted, and Kenyan law, like most legal systems, presume innocence until a court finds otherwise. What we can say without speculation on guilt is this: Faith Kemunto is dead. Her family spent a month searching for her, followed by a discovery no family should have to go through, and they're still, as of the most recent reporting, waiting for a legal resolution.